your host, or one of the hosts, MK.
Yeah, I honestly thought that we decided not to do a ASMR opening.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of just keeps happening. The same thing with Alex's guitar intro. I don't think we ever actually decided that that was going to be an official intro, but it's so like satisfying.
It feels good to pretend like I know how to play the guitar.
I mean, that's been my entire experience with filmmaking. Is it feels good to pretend I know how to make videos.
Shh, don't let them know your secrets.
All right. Yeah. So, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome to our um, kind of podcast. Still working on the audio part, although I think I might have figured it out. So we'll probably have something up um, later this evening. So that'll be fun. Unless, of course, technology decides that it doesn't like me, which it does sometimes, and that's fine, because life is just all about the journey, and sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches as they come.
Still better than someone taking over your body and deleting everything.
Yeah, that was oddly specific.
Well, that now I'm terrified. Thank you.
You doing okay, James? Is everything okay?
Yes.
I mean, I think he was referring to your experience a few months ago, MK.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. Okay, yeah, let's
I
talk
kind of
about it.
figured.
Yes, you are talking to James.
Uh,
Shall we continue?
yeah,
Let us
sorry.
continue. Definitely. Let's go on.
The
this bit is over.
flashbacks are so real. Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Anyway, yeah, so today we're doing a regular podcast. As you can tell by the title, um, if you have followed with us this far, congratulations. To clarify to those of you who are watching this episode, if the title has D&D in it, then it's about D&D, and if it doesn't, then it's not. I know it's complicated, but
Even simple individuals like ourselves can understand it.
yes, so simple even we can understand it.
Says the group of scientists and engineers.
It's not
I don't like.
important.
I don't like to call myself that just yet.
Yeah, Alex is still in the path of discovery. He's trying to decide what he wants to do with his life, and you know what? That is a path that only he can walk down alone.
My job description says I'm a technical engineer, but I'm pretty sure I'm just a bum.
I Wait, are you a technical engineer, like an engineer that
Technical.
works with technology, or are you like technically an engineer?
I meant to say technical designer, like technically a designer, but I guess that works. Look, I'm not supposed to English well.
That's fair. Yeah, I used to be able to make excuses when I was straight engineering, but since I've taken the detour to the land of biology and chemistry, we have to
You
do
have no excuse.
well, we have to do a lot more writing. So
A dark land, it indeed.
I mean,
In fairness, engineers do actually do a lot of writing.
yeah, no, this is in no way saying that engineers don't. Like, oh my gosh, the amount of reports you have to write and homework assignments, it's a good time, and it's a little bit cuckoo.
Indeed, but don't talk about that. I'm trying to enjoy my summer right now.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. It's still summertime.
I mean, I read a design report last week.
Yeah, Kara's been doing homework like this entire, well, not homework specifically, but like school and work like this entire summer. So Kara's also one of
Oh,
those
that-
people who walks away from school getting A pluses in every class. So
She gets
Okay, A
an,
pluses aren't actually a thing at our school.
okay, so just A's, straight A's.
she gets an A minus and then walks away, contemplating what she's done wrong with her life.
Okay, but actually though, like if we can get real for a minute, I have seen that happen with Kara. Kara, I don't think you know how much we like mad respect you, because like you were that person who was like, hey, by the way, I worked really hard, and oh, look at that. I basically, you are basically, you're a straight up genius. I think we can all agree that point.
Hmm.
I don't have any good responses for this.
I think Kara is the Hermione of our friend group. So,
Perfect.
oh shoot, if we're going down that route, then I'm the Neville.
No, you very
No,
obviously are not.
You're
But
Harry
no,
Potter at
that
this
doesn't
point.
work.
no, but plants.
Nah, nah.
Not quite close enough.
Anyway, potato, potato.
I don't think I actually have all that much in common with Hermione either.
Well, I mean,
Alex and I would be the Fred and George.
Yeah.
okay, actually, yeah, no, that. Okay, I like that a lot more than I should.
Question is, which one of us is gonna die?
I guess we'll have to wait and find
I
out.
volunteer as tribute.
Alex, is everything okay?
So, Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword.
Anyway, yeah, Kara, would you care to explain what our topic is for today?
Hey,
Because
McKay, I see what you did there.
Oh dear.
I think that was a majorly good idea, but
Anyway, what do we have going on for today, Kara?
Yeah, so today we're discussing
I might say some
I guess-
discords into the friend group.
James, did you
Sorry,
just like
what?
have a stroke?
You're good. Just continue. I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Today we
Anyway.
were planning to discuss various fairly random I guess philosophy ideas. First one being Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword, which is essentially first of all fun to say.
I
And
I explained it to a kid this last week, and he'd heard of Occam's Razor before.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know what Occam's Razor is, it's basically the idea that if there's two possibilities or two options for how something went down, like, say you walk into your kitchen and you see that. Sorry.
The oven is on fire.
Yeah, you walk into your kitchen, you see the oven's on fire. There's, two possible options. One is that you left the oven on, you left the oven on way longer than you should have, and the other is that John Cena came
A
through.
cat with a laser weapon?
Yeah, John Cena came through a mystical space portal with a powerful laser weapon and was fighting a ghost fly in your kitchen, and the fly flew directly in front of the oven when he shot at it, and then the fly flew out your window, and John Cena's still there, but you just can't see him. So if it's between the first and the latter, Occam's Razor states that the more likely of the two, the more obvious, what's the phrase I'm looking for? The less ridiculous, the more obvious of the
more
two.
parsimonious.
Okay, again, you sure you're not the Hermione of our friend group? All you need is
No comment.
you just need to develop a British accent, and
Except for the fact that we've established that I can't do accents.
practice makes perfect. Parsimonious. Yes, so whatever is the more parsimonious of the two is indubitably the correct assumption for what can be assumed to be reality. Yeah, so basically the more obvious of the two, according to Occam's Razor, is generally almost always the correct assumption.
It's a law that I like to apply in my everyday life.
Yes, Alex, our resident conspiracy theorist.
What can I say? The Earth is flat. Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba, ba.
All right,
Okay.
sorry, Kara. I totally cut you off. I think probably. So
I think it was a while back, and that tends to happen.
I'm
So,
so sorry.
whatever.
I'm so sorry.
I think the original purpose of this conversation was to explain Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword,
Yeah. Okay. So
which
we've.
honestly I'm just going to say as many times as possible during the next hour.
I mean, as much as you can because it's kind of amazing. Yeah. So we've established what Occam's Razor is. Now, Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword. Okay, Kara. I think you said this earlier. What's the other name that it's known by?
Alder's razor. So Mike Alder is an Australian mathematician, and he is the responsible for coming up with Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword. So called because it is much sharper and more dangerous than Occam's razor.
But okay, why
Yep.
exactly is Sir Isaac Newton part of the equation? Like, I have no complaints because I feel like most.
Because it's inspired by Newtonian thought. There was
Ah,
some philosophy that Newton worked on because back then scientists just kind of worked on everything that he inspired when he was doing, Newton's laws and physics and all that.
I mean, in a broad sense, everything is a form of science. So,
True. Which is part of the basis of Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword. By the end of this podcast, I will be able to say it with a straight face.
well, good luck because I still can't.
Yeah. The concept is essentially that if something cannot be settled by experiment, then there's no point in debating it.
I'm trying to remember. It was a conversation I was having. It was like a year ago, but I was chatting with someone about something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like metaphysical or something along those lines. It would have to have been. Um, I can't even give this example if I can't think of what it was. So I'm gonna tap out for a second while I try to remember if anyone has any other examples.
I mean, so I looked this up before to make sure I had a solid understanding of it. And the example that is given in the article I was reading is that it's a physics problem where you ask what happens when an irresistible force is exerted on an immovable object. And essentially, what they come up with is that the premise of the question is flawed because either the object moves and thus is movable, or it's not moved, meaning the force is resistible. And either way, uh, the question is only answerable by experimentation, which is not possible because neither of those things exist in the real world. So there's basically no point in having the discussion.
I just remembered what it was, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Because somehow that sparked that remembrance of what it was. So the conversation was I was chatting with someone and we were talking about probability, and we were talking about how when you add infinity into the mix, things kind of start breaking a little bit. Not due to entropy, but just because of vast infinite probability. So if you were to take, for example, an infinite number of clothes drying machines, also known as dryers, all with clothing inside of them, an infinite number of those, and set them running for an infinite number of cycles for an infinite number of time, eventually, at some point, you would
You would
open
rack
up
up the electric bill. I get it.
that.
Continue.
Thank you, James.
Dang it, James.
Okay, just as a note on that phrase specifically, that was a catchphrase for a lot of my friends in high school. So, feel free to use it whenever you like.
I like it. I like it.
Yep, I'm
gonna
using
steal
that.
Good.
So yeah, so basically, you add all these infinites together, and eventually you would have one dryer where you would open it up and all the clothing that was tumbling inside, you would open up the dryer and all the clothing would be perfectly folded and ready to go. Just because, technically speaking, given an infinite set of time, infinite set of variables, that is technically possible. And so we were going back and forth about whether or not this was possible. They were saying it's not possible because that just can't happen. And I was saying, well, no, technically it can because infinity kind of makes things weird. And then they were starting to pull like other arguments into it. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but eventually it you can only get so far with a conversation, with a debate that's associated with, purely theoretical physics and infinite sets of matter and energy. And so I love this. All I did was I said, okay, well, here's the problem. This can't actually be proven because these things don't exist. So by that right, I invoke Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword. Which
I love that sentence.
Continue. I want to hear what they responded.
Yes.
they gave me the most. I don't remember what they did, but I remember Henry was sitting in the room and he was on his laptop, and I just remember him slowly lifting his head up, not even looking at me, just staring off into space, looking so confused, and then slowly turning his head to make eye contact with me. And his face was like this beautiful blend of like just the greatest pride I have ever seen and also the greatest disappointment. And he eventually was just like, yes, that is how you do it.
Very proud. I'm very, very proud.
It was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Newton's flaming laser sword reminds me of something that people like to use in discussions that makes me so terribly frustrated that sometimes I can't even speak. And I used to rant to people about this. It's when people say, well, for the sake of the argument, let's say, and it bothers me so much because that phrase, like, for the sake of the argument, let's say that this is reality even though it is not. I wish I had known about Newton's flaming laser sword earlier so that I could just invoke the right of Newton's laser sword instead of having to sit there and explain to them why that phrase is flawed and illogical.
For the sake of the argument, let's say that all pancakes are actually maniacal devil creatures that are trying to take over your minds every time you go into an IHOP.
IHOP tastes like garbage and is still in business. I think that's a true statement.
What does that mean for the pancakes I made at home this morning?
You're fine. Those ones are fine.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay,
IHOP.
so just the IHOP pancakes.
Just the
Definitely.
IHOP pancakes. Denny's are also fine.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yes. Although there might be some, other pancake people that are working that all out. But, it's all
Does
good.
that mean that Denny's is like the resistance?
Maybe. All I know is that anything that prides itself in just the name pancakes definitely has offended the waffle people. And as the holy bearer of the waffle armor, I have to take offense to it. And I have to stand against it.
Hey guys.
Hi, Kara.
We just went from Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword to demon breakfast foods. In like 5 minutes.
I invoke the right of Newton's flaming laser sword and say that we cannot discuss this anymore.
Thank you, Alex.
I invoke the right of Chekhovs Gun and allow us to continue this conversation because it was brought up in the first place.
All right. Well,
Excellent segue, by the way. Which is an excellent segue, by the way.
That's actually amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, now I get to discuss Chekhov's gun.
Wait, is this an actual thing? Wait, tell me this.
Yes, this is actually a thing.
For those of you who don't know what Chekhov's gun is, I'm just going to read the first line of the Wikipedia page. Chekhovs gun is a dramatic principle that states that every element in a story must be necessary and irrelevant irrelevant elements should be removed. This means that if there's a gun sitting on the mantelpiece and someone breaks into your house, you are obligated by the rights of storytelling to grab the gun and shoot the person, or at least club them over the head with it. So
That's genius. That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
On
so
another note,
basically
I'm
what
pretty
it's saying
sure
is
this is why James is insanely good at predicting movies.
actually
true.
it would make sense. So speaking of predicting movies, today I
Uh-oh.
went and saw the new Spider-Man,
Hey, no
and I'm not
spoilers, no
going to say
spoilers.
anything about it, but the person sitting next to me, my friend invited me to go see it with him, and she really hates when someone spoils a movie for you while you're in the movie.
Why did she invite you? I mean, no disrespect intended.
James, that's like
Well-
your superpower. Let's be honest.
Actually, just a little bit. Because the first time you saw that happen with me was with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, right, MK?
Yeah, we're sitting there, and I guess it's been long enough so we don't have to do a spoiler warning.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
But
Yeah.
just in case, we're gonna flash one on the screen. Someone open up your screen sharing, and then just flash a spoiler warning really quickly.
Okay, actually, I can do that.
Because just in case you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix right now, by the way, if you haven't seen it.
I literally was watching it before we started this. It's amazing. It was my
really
favorite.
good.
It was my favorite movie of 2018.
Okay, the spoiler warning has been flashed.
Excellent.
I did not see it, but that's okay. As long as it happened.
Oh, sorry, it was just on my end, because... Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and continue, MK.
Yeah, so we're sitting there, and, they introduce Miles Morales' uncle, and from the start, James is just like, yeah, so he's going to be a bad guy. And we're like, what? Dude, I mean, yes, if you read the comics, then you would know that, because that was something they pulled directly from the comics. And Prowler, who is Miles' uncle, he shows up in the very beginning as one of the initial villains, so that's not that hard to draw the parallels to. But James hadn't written the comics about it, if I remember correctly.
At least not that portion of the comics. I know a lot about Peter Parker, not as much about Miles Morales.
Yeah, so right from the start, he was just like, yeah, his uncle's a bad guy. And we're like, how do you know that? And he's just like, he just is. And then movie starts progressing a little bit further, and James is just like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And we're like, James, what? And he's like, dude, Spider-Man, his uncle, think about it. They're going to do the Peter Parker, Ben Parker alleyway whole thing. And we're like, wait, what? How do you... And of course, okay, so a little bit of background. So all of us had seen this movie except for James.
And
Kara,
one other person who was in the room, but I can't remember who it was.
I think it was Kara. Had you seen it?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
He wasn't
I have
with us
seen
for
Into
that
the
one.
Spider-Verse twice, but not with you guys.
Okay. Yeah, so we're watching it, and James is just like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna, his uncle's gonna die, and they're gonna have a dramatic one-on-one alleyway scene, just like they did with Peter Parker and Uncle Ben." And we're like, "Dude, what the heck?" And of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that kind of actually happens. Yeah, he gets his uncle gets shot, and they have a really dramatic scene, and it's really awesome, and yeah, and so
The scene is awesome, not the fact that this uncle got shot.
yeah, no. The scene, the ambiance, the whole setting, storytelling is beautiful, but the
Yes.
death,
I mean, we could argue either way, but let's go move on.
yeah. Is there a way to experiment, like which one is better?
Between Occam's Razor and Occam's Razor,
Between
Newton's flaming laser sword and Chekhov's gun?
No, is there a way for us to scientifically prove or test? Because we're talking about, which is good, which is bad, his uncle dying or the way the scene was set up. And is there a way for us to actually test that?
No idea.
Okay, then for all intents and purposes, let us invoke Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword. Yes!
It is now invoked. Let's put one of those in post.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need a
So-
lightsaber sound right there.
Actually, that would be hilarious. If every time we said the word Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword, it just made a Star Wars lightsaber sound.
Can we do that? Because yes,
It would
Um,
require quite a bit of editing, but I bet we could.
that's true.
if we,
MK has the time.
I,
I doubt he does, actually.
Yeah,
um,
pretty busy.
I can
I
do
don't
it.
actually mean it.
I can easily do it in future stuff. If we're preemptive, just because these video files are massive, and they're not
That's
even
fair.
really video files. I mean, they are, but like,
But
what I mean.
if in any future podcasts we reference Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword, which I mean probably fairly likely, and hey, I just said that with a straight face this time.
Congratulations!
Yay!
Woo! Yeah, we'll set it up. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just have a soundboard to the side and just continue to press the different buttons that seem to come up frequently in our discussions.
that should be pretty easy, actually. I think I know how to get
Actually,
that set up.
really easy. But we were talking about
Barely an inconvenience.
Death.
oh goody. No, we were talking about predicting movies and Chekhov's gun. That's right.
Yeah. So during Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, this entire time, this kept happening with James. Like, we're sitting there and he is just predicting. He's just casually saying things that will happen. And I think
But some of the time it was only like 30 seconds to 2 minutes before it happened, and sometimes it was like 15 minutes to half the movie before it happened.
I think he guessed. I can't remember how many times you guessed. I think there was one where you got something wrong, but it was like only kind of wrong. Like, you said
It
a
was
different.
it was specifically what I thought was going to happen was when Prowler and SpiderMan were in the alleyway. I thought he was going to say, "With great power comes great responsibility," and then I remembered after I said that that's already something that exists in this universe, and so of course he's not going to say it.
Yeah. So, like, but he still got the whole thing right, that there still was that scene, and there still was something that communicated basically the exact same sentiment. Like, it was all really, really on the dot. And so we're sitting there trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And we finally learned later on that James's brain is basically just an automatic, like, Chekhov's Gatling gun, basically.
That's the best description of it I have heard so far.
That's amazing.
Oh no!
Yeah, you have a new nickname, James.
Is it going to be Chekhov's Gatling?
I don't know yet.
We'll have to see what flows naturally.
It'll either be Chekhov, Gats, gun. I don't know. Although that might we might not want to go with that last one, because if we're sitting there chilling
yeah,
in
just a bit.
church, just
But
hanging out, and then try to call over to him, hey, gun. I think,
no, but think about this. You know how the word gun is a meme these days? We could all be introducing ourselves with nicknames. And then
Oh,
it
no.
goes MK Zing and Shadow and Toyota and Gun. Have you guys seen that meme?
yes.
I just need to know. Because I'm fairly new to that one specifically. I did not realize that was a meme up until I saw a meme compilation that had, I think it was about 50 different memes all on the same picture thread.
Yeah, the somebody once told me.
What? What is
Yeah.
this?
So
You know, in
it's
my case, it's fairly safe to assume the answer is no. So I'm just gonna pretend I know what you guys are talking about.
MK,
I
can you look up a few of these just so that way we can screen share them?
yeah.
Just because I'm probably not the only person who doesn't know these. So,
Let's see. So it was the one. It was somebody once told me, or somebody once trolled me.
Successfully rickrolled me.
I ain't the sharpest something in the thread.
This is amazing. I keep getting amazed at how people on the internet just have so much time for this stuff. Like,
right?
how?
Okay. It looks like there's multiple versions of it.
Of
Here's a
course.
here's a massive one. Okay. I'm going to move it so that people could see it. I don't think I can even zoom in that close. But
So wait, what is this? So that maybe we can do our own research for it.
so if you Google somebody once trolled me, successfully rickrolled me, you get this compilation of comments. Um, just the classic meme format, and it goes something like this. Um, and I wish I had the instrumental version of. Oh, we might get in trouble for that. I don't know. Anyway, so it goes, somebody once trolled me, successfully rickrolled me. I'm not the sharpest noob in the thread. I was typing kind of dumb with a caps lock button on. I bet you thought this post was finally dead. Well, the memes start coming and they don't stop coming. Grab it all the breadsticks, I'll leave the shop running. Didn't make sense not to live for. Gun. Your left side's beef, but your pizza none. So much to post, so much John Cena in my live feed. Very meme, such impress. How you learn these no's so amaze. Wow. Hey now, you're a meme star. Get the rarest. Pepe. Hey now, here come that boy. Oh crap, what up? What? That didn't rhyme. Anyway.
And
Eh,
that dress
dress.
was white and gold. Everybody craves those minerals.
And then you get a picture of only shooting stars break the mold, but it's in the format of loss.
It's lost. Oh my gosh, I just got that. I was looking at that like, why are these freaking like this? It's lost. It's stupid lost.
You can find. Yep. It's. It's so dumb.
So the idea behind gun as a meme, from what I've understood it to be, is that it just randomly replaces what you expect to be in a sentence, and so it could be something simple as in that one, instead of saying the word fun, or I think it was fun, I can't remember now. You say the word gun, and it's supposed to be a meme for some reason. I don't understand this.
Meme culture is one of those things that evolves so fast that most of the time it's impossible to truly understand.
That's true.
As a
Kind of like
volunteer.
English grammar.
Yeah. One could argue that this kind of is like English in some way because it technically is a part of, I guess, English culture. So the beautiful thing about meme culture, and I like to consider myself like a volunteer meme historian. Um, eh,
Can we talk about that sentence later?
A
yeah.
volunteer meme historian.
Anyway, potato, potato. The beautiful thing about memes and meme culture is that they unite people who share a similar language because the whole idea of a meme is 99% of the time at least you're communicating an idea, a joke of some kind, and most of the time those jokes are dependent upon a single language. Well, so I speak Spanish and English, and so I see Spanish and English memes all the time. And what I've noticed and found is that there are actually very different and distinct memes that develop in different languages. So, like, there are memes that are Spanish only memes that I have never seen transferred to English or anything even remotely close to that, and they were insanely popular, like insanely popular, and I still see them to this day. Sometimes you get some crossover ones, like I don't know, you'll get the remember the old meme faces that occasionally still pop up, like the
Like troll face
yeah, like troll
and
face, Obama face, um,
yeah.
yeah, those ones. Those usually cross over languages because it's just a funny picture, but most of the other memes, they they're language dependent, which is really interesting to see.
I agree with you because there are jokes in some Filipino languages that I bust up laughing every time. Like I have a shirt that says "Pogi ako," which is basically "I'm handsome," which is like a roaring joke over there. But when you wear it here and you tell people what it means, they just look at you like, "What? Why? Why would you put that on a shirt?" Meme culture is weird, dude. Memes.
Memes are an extension of humanity's innate desire for comedy, for mirthfulness, whimsicality, and a lot of times that takes very interesting forms, especially when exposed to a beautiful, beautiful collection of knowledge like the internet.
But I don't think we can ever actually experiment memes. So therefore, I activate the rights of Newton's flaming laser sword and move on to the next discussion.
Uh,
Actually, hey MK, you know what a perfect example of Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword is?
is it an actual flaming laser sword?
No, though that would be cool. I was referring to last Thursdayism.
Oh, actually, yeah. Dang it, Kara. That's like the best segue I've ever heard.
You're
And
welcome.
and I've heard a segue about segues, so that was amazing. Okay. Um yeah, so trying to not get distracted again, because that's kind of a prerequisite in this group. Um so yeah, switching back over to the subject of weird philosophical stuff. There is a really fun argument. Um, I can't remember the exact origin of it. If someone wants to fact check me on it or wants to look up any information, but from what I've understood about it, there's a philosophical argument, an idea known as last Thursdayism, and it's like a mix of parody religion, but also sort of a more of a thought experiment focused on how there are some things in life that you cannot prove, but inevitably they are true. So the whole idea of last Thursdayism is that the entire universe, everything in it, everything ever, was created last Thursday. And you might say, which last Thursday, because there was the one that was like, just last week or the week before. It doesn't matter. That's beyond the scope of the thought experiment. For the sake of last Thursdayism, it is the most recent Thursday. The universe was created on that day.
So specifically in this case, it would be 2 days ago.
Exactly. Yeah, today's Saturday when we record these.
Recording.
Yeah. So universe was created last Thursday. Now, the very obvious initial glaring flaw in this idea is, well, hey, we have things that we can measure that have existed way longer than that. We have memories, like we did things prior to that day. There's so much evidence that stuff happened and existed prior to last Thursday. But the problem is, in the case of the last Thursdayism argument, it's stated that those memories and those evidences were also created last Thursday. So if you were to carbon date like a fossil, well, I guess not. I guess you could. But like carbon date literally anything, and it said it existed prior to last Thursday. Well, that's just because when the universe was created, that carbon decay was created in that exact state of decay so that it would seem like its half-life or it was in a half-life. Oh my gosh, my brain just totally stopped working. Basically, it would seem like it was a lot older than it actually was, and that's the case for everything. Like fossils that are in the ground, those were created there. Your grandparents who you remember and but they're dead, you actually never had any grandparents. It's just a fake memory that was implanted in your head. Basically, all of these things were created last Thursday, and it's like the trippiest thing because you cannot disprove it, even though you know it is not true.
How do you know it's not true?
Exactly.
That's exactly it.
There's no way to actually prove that it's not true. There's also no way to prove that it is true. That's one of those circumstances where you could easily say, I invoke Sir Isaac Newton's flaming laser sword. But as a thought experiment, it is incredibly fascinating. You
Though in
know,
fairness, this you could also apply Occam's Razor in that someone intentionally providing countless evidence to make the universe look old is unnecessarily complex.
this is true. However, if you were to go deeper and you were to talk about, even if you were to completely throw like divine design out the window, you could technically argue that in an infinite universe, infinite period of time with infinite resources, which we do know the universe is infinite, has existed indefinitely. Technically speaking, there is a possibility that a universe just like this could have been created last Thursday.
Remind me,
Get the law of total probability out here right now. This does not belong in this discussion.
Law of total probability. I roll to create a universe. Ooh, I got a 9. It is
What?
not created last Thursday.
Let me see. I got a 14.
Okay, Alex, your universe was created 2 Thursdays ago.
Yay!
hey, MK, remind me, I have a really trippy interdimensional question for you later that I don't want to get into right now because we have like 10 minutes left in this.
Oh, that's a good point. Um, okay, cool. We're going to have to explain that though at some point because we've now raised this question, and the 10 people who are
Chekhovs
listening.
gun.
This is true. This is true. This is true. The nice
Yep.
thing is these are basically like sequels, so if something's a loose end, we can wrap it up later. Which kind of feels like lazy story writing, but potato, potato. Um, shoot.
Yep, the real question is who actually listens to this point? If you're listening to this right now, please comment down below that you're actually listening right now so we can get a good idea of who's sticking around this late.
This is fair.
We will probably mock you for it as well.
But like in a
Really?
loving way. If we mock you, it's because we love you.
Exactly. I don't actually mock people I don't know. It's because I'm too terrified that they'll actually turn around and John Cena me into the ground.
John Cena.
Can we talk about where exactly that belongs on the Kuehl scale?
Kara,
On the what
okay,
scale?
Kara, you holy what the actual heck? How are you
Fuel
so good at
scale?
this? How? Okay, I take it back. Kara is not the Hermione Granger. She's just like something
She's
completely different. That was. How are you so good at these like transitions?
she's the player character.
Oh no!
All right, next podcast I'll be sure to bring up something about how Kara is actually the player character and we are all NPCs.
Okay, we can actually make that the subject of the next one because that is something we could talk about for a long time. Yeah, just a little snippet. There's this reoccurring joke with some of our friends that life is a simulation, but it's not specifically a simulation like the Matrix. It's basically like a big, really, really intense virtual reality esque game of sorts, and almost everyone is an NPC. But Kara is the player character, and we have like a billion reasons why, and it's actually kind of awesome. But you
It does
know,
get steadily more entertaining. But, invoking Chekhov's gun, we now have to explain the Kuhl scale.
yes, this is true. Um, that was still a really good segue. Dang it!
Thank you.
It's so good. Okay.
I'll be honest, the reason I'm doing that is because when we started this, I wrote down a list of all the things we wanted to cover, and I've been looking for a way to introduce them.
Okay. Do we? Can we? We don't. Okay. None of us get paid for any of this because we don't make money. But if we did, Kara, you would get a raise. So
Basically,
emotional.
Kara would make the most money. MK would be second. James would be third, and I'd be the unpaid intern.
That sounds about right. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if we're counting the raise you offered me when I came up with the name for this podcast.
Yeah, I've been promising Kara a lot of raises. So.
I mean, in fairness, we're coworkers, so I don't think it works that way.
Potato, potato. Okay, so the Kuhl scale, if anyone else also knows more about this, feel free to jump in. I just
I
happen
know what you
to
told me, so.
I just happen to spend a lot of time um, looking up like strange philosophical stuff because it's interesting and life is fun. Um, but the whole idea behind the Kuhl scale, so that is CUIL, if I'm spelling that correctly, and Kuhl is a measurement scale used to measure abstractness or deviation from the norm. Um, it's not inherently quantifiable, but it kind of is. In a rough sense, each single instance of deviation from the norm results in one more Kuhl. And I'll get into that in 1 second when we actually use an example. But basically, for all intensive purposes, um, each time a new variable is introduced that brings the reality that you're in further away from what is considered normal reality, that is one more Kuhl. So an example of this would be 0 Kuhl would be a man walks down the street. 1 Kuhl would be a man walks down the street, but the cement is made out of salami. So that's 1 Kuhl, one deviation from the norm. 2 Kuhl would be a man walks down the street made out of salami, but the man is actually made out of cement. Because there's one deviation from the norm. Sorry, hang on 1 second.
What?
My phone and my laptop are hooked up together, so if I get a call on my phone, you start hearing the ringtone in the background. So, sorry, let me just take care of this.
Yeah, but that entire discussion is just kind of blowing my mind. I cannot wait to hear more.
Yeah, so the whole idea goes a lot further. So if you wanted to take it further, the easiest way to do that would be like with that same example. Just you have a man a man made of cement walking down a street made out of salami, but the street that he is walking down is actually on the moon. That's 3 Kuhl. And, one more from that would be that the moon actually is made out of cheese. One more from that would be that it's not Earth's moon, it's Jupiter's. One more from that would be that, and we're not talking about Jupiter the planet, we're talking about Jupiter the god, and it just gets progressively further. And a lot of those were kind of tied together. That's not normally how Kuhl has to work. It can be incredibly random, like, it's Jupiter the
It's
god,
also
but
very, very subjective.
yeah, it's a very subjective quantifiability. So it's relative, which you could argue
So
most things are. But
are you telling me that Kuhl is the force that drives basically every Reddit comment thread?
I don't know Reddit well enough to answer that, but I would assume that the answer is yes.
Could be Facebook comment threads as well.
okay, but Facebook comment threads are just fueled by hate. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
It's also actually really hard to read Facebook comment threads because once you get past like 10 comments, you can't quite read them all properly.
Yeah, they kind of get arranged weirdly. And there's always. Facebook is one of those things that I think has really given us an askew version of what reality is because most normal people, when there's a post they don't agree with, they either comment something small or they just completely move on and, just go from there. Um, but but then you have the extremes on both sides who are the ones that comment a lot on Facebook threads. And when you open up a Facebook comment thread and all you see are people screaming like the weirdest things at each other, um, that's that's when it kind of makes you think that everyone's crazy.
But are we not all crazy?
I mean, in some aspect, yes, but some are
Well,
more.
now we fall into the trap of having to define crazy and then having to define normal, and that's a whole trap there.
Yeah, normality, there's a social normality, there's a cultural normality. What is normal in one culture may not be normal in another, but what is socially acceptable in one might still be socially acceptable in that one. So,
And then, of course, you can get into Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and use levels of normality to travel through hyperspace.
as one casually
Which is,
does.
yeah, sounds
Yep.
about right.
It is at this moment I realize that I am way out of my league.
It'll be fine. At this point, I'm almost kind of just waiting for Kara to, like, somehow segue
Segue us
into.
into something else.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you deviated too fast. But I was going to point out that Facebook does not follow the principle of least astonishment.
So you had something prepared. Okay. That's impressive.
you, McKay, you ruined it.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
My
you get a pay cut.
my entire goal is to try to keep people on their toes. And so the fact that I was able to keep Kara on her toes is a very good thing because it means I'm not being predictable, I guess. I don't know. It's
I
actually
mean,
not.
in fairness, I tend to be on my toes, or at least the balls of my feet, quite a lot.
It's true.
This is true, actually. I can't even counter that. That's just like 100% true. Okay, so Kara, you are familiar with this concept. So why don't you explain it to us? Because
Um, so, yeah, the principle of least astonishment is actually something that came up in my computer science class. It's most frequently applied to software design, or most specifically to user interfaces or ways that people interact with software. I think the technical language was something along the lines of, if a necessary feature has a high astonishment factor, it may be necessary to redesign the feature. Or in layman's terms, um, something of a system should behave in the way that you expect it to behave. So if there's a green button on your screen that says start, um, applying the principle of least astonishment, if you press that button, it should start whatever program you're working with. If it instead conjures up some advertisement blocker that blocks everything you're trying to do, that is not a useful program and therefore should be redesigned.
huh.
Interesting.
I don't even have
Actually, I mean, that was an extreme example, but it's actually really useful when you're. That's why you like have someone look at your program after you write it and see whether it makes logical sense.
So the question is, can you apply that same principle to outside of coding?
I would imagine so. I mean, anything you're designing for other people to use,
I wonder.
really.
See, now what I'm wanting to do, and I think this would be really funny. I'm wanting to do like a live stream thing where we just like binge as seen on TV products, like the commercials for those,
Oh
and
no.
then just anytime there's a feature or some gadget involved, like you know how at the end of those commercials there's always, but wait, there's more. Call in the next 30 minutes and we'll send you an egg slicer, and it's like drain cleaner or something like that. And it, yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how far we can take the idea of the principle of least astonishment and apply it to like these commercials.
You want to know what that reminds me of?
What?
The beginning of the original animated Aladdin.
Oh, dude. Okay, not gonna lie, I was actually kind of thinking of that.
Combination hookah and coffee maker. Also makes Julian fries.
So you've heard the story about that, right? Like those lines were
Yeah, they
improvised.
yeah, they literally just gave him a table full of things and told him to say things funny about them.
Yeah, some of them had to be cut because they were a little not appropriate
PG
for.
PGR.
Yeah, basically. But I've been trying to find like the deleted scenes, like the stuff for what he did. I did find some deleted scenes, like after his passing, Pixar, not Pixar, sorry, that was weird. After his passing, Disney they put together this like little compilation, and they were, they went over like some scenes, what it was like to work with him, and then they had like some deleted clips where it was him recording and like doing different lines. And it was really funny to watch because he would be doing like different takes of different scenes, but a lot of like the impressions that you see the genie doing, a lot of those are just Robin Williams reading lines that he was given and then giving them his own twist. Like some of those lines that are in Aladdin where he like I don't know drops into like a Jay Leno impression or whatever. That wasn't in the script. It was literally just the line that he said, and then he just started doing impressions and whatnot, and the animators just rolled with it, which I think is like the greatest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
It warms my heart.
Cool.
So, did we go all the way down the list, or is Kara still formulating a segue?
That's all the ones we had written down.
To be honest, I have a bit of a headache right now, so we might want to just call it a day.
Yeah, I feel you. This last week, so I already mentioned in the last one of these we did that I was in Texas, and I forgot how much the heat and humidity really drains the life and energy out of you, especially if you're walking around in it all day, every day for an entire week.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
Makes sense.
did sorry I if that sounds like what's the word? Not braggy. It's the opposite of that. Like pity party, maybe. That's yeah. That's not my intention. That was not what I wanted by that. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna stop talking now.
No, you're good. High heat is difficult to deal with, especially if you're not used to the humidity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait a second. You
Yeah.
come from Alaska.
Yes, I do.
I guess you don't
Your
necessarily have to
point?
be an expert in high heat and humidity to be able to make that statement, but
I
potato
mean,
potato.
I know that when I tried to survive Alabama for 2 weeks, I was also very tired all the time. So,
And this is the part of the conversation where we have to stop you, right? Because once we start talking
yep.
about
As soon as you start talking about Alabama, I start talking about space camp, and you need to tell me to shut up now.
I mean, we can easily do that for the next segment because I mean, I feel like I talk a lot and I love it when other people are talking a lot too, because then I don't talk a lot. Okay.
I thought during the next segment you guys were all going to discuss how I'm the player character of a video game.
Oh, that's right. Okay, we'll do that two segments from now, which might be a bit further in the future, depending on when D&D segments get shot.
We'll see what happens.
It'll be fine. It'll be good. Huh.
Perfect. Well, speaking of segues, thank you all so much for watching.
Or
Thank you,
listen.
Alex.
Shall
See
you
you-
start playing the music to get us out of here?
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll just do something. We'll do something here and we're like.
We need to record like just a straight up audio file of this, of the Alex playing guitar, just in case he isn't here one day.
Good point.
And thank you for listening to The Good Kush. Next time, we'll be talking about why this reality is a lie, why it's just a big simulation, and why Kara is the player character. So tune in next time to The Good Kush, which, by the way, stands for comedy. Oh, my brain just stopped working. Okay, comedy with uplifting science and happiness. Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.